Game 4 looks super interesting here. The first thing that I noticed straight away was Torturer, and there's not a nice way to deal with Torturer curses. There's no watchtower or anything. So if you could stick your opponent with a lot of Torturers, then you should do that. Probably puts you in a winning position. So couple ways to do that is, one, on the board you can go Crown Crown Torturer and continue your action chain that way. Or you could get plus actions from sacrifice on an action, any action, and then play a torturer. So both of those paths require that your deck be very, very thin. You can have very few stray coppers and estates in your deck, otherwise these things won't work. You need like Crown Crown Torturer to start, or sacrifice action torturer. You need a lot of setup for that thing to work, but I think it's powerful enough and worth going for. So what I'm going to open with is a sacrifice and a silver. The silver is to help me to get up to 5 to buy replace. Again, trashing is paramount in this kind of deck because things have to line up in a certain way. And the sacrifice obviously for the trashing. So this is in opposition to my opponent's pawn and jack. Now a word about jack. Jack is a good card, especially against torturer chains where you do have the option to discard. It's a good card. It's a reasonable thing to open with, I think, here. The pawn, I'm not sure why my opponent is actually going after all these pawns. And perhaps he could let me know later on, but he does have a couple pawns by now. And I do pick up one here as well, but that's only because I have $2. I choose not to trash an estate there because I want to leave it for the replace. It's a better replace target. And two, I know that if I have 3 estates in that hand, I have guaranteed $5 in this hand, which means I am getting a replace. So the replace can find the estates and turn that into other sacrifices, for example. So there's a nice thing in addition to using sacrifice on actions, and that is Lurker. So you could sacrifice your action, get 2 cards and 2 actions from it, I believe, and then use your Lurker to get back the action that you sacrificed. Very, very, very nice interaction. Very nice interaction. So far, none of us have bought Lurkers yet. My opponent now picks up a sacrifice, and we both have crowns. The crown is very versatile. I love crown. Crown is brilliant. Never a dead card, as long as you have treasures or action cards. So my opponent, he now picks up a Lurker alongside a sacrifice, right? So I have to be wary of that. When your opponent picks up a Lurker, I feel like you don't want to just let them have the Lurker uncontested, because then they could just put whatever they want in the trash and not have to worry about you sniping it from the trash. So I am gonna get a Lurker here. My opponent has 2 now, so I really can't let him just roam free with these Lurkers, because he could get too many action cards for free. Perhaps the crown is the most valuable, as a bit of you know, synchrony there. So I am gonna get a Lurker here, replacing one of my estates for it, and putting it at the top of the deck too. So just in case he tries any funny business with his Lurker, I have one waiting right now for him. But no Lurker comes out, so I'm not gonna play mine either. There's no real reason for me to play it, so I'll just let it go. But I have one. I have a couple crowns. He can't be too risky with it. What is not risky, however, is crown and Lurker. So this is a nice thing, right? If you can manage to line up your crowns with your Lurkers, that is very, very good for you, because you're guaranteed to get whatever action card you like. My opponent pulls a Torturer out of the supply. So that's very good for him that he was able to crown that. Hopefully I'll be able to crown that myself in the near future. Again, crowning Lurker is another thing that requires cards to come in a very, very specific order, which is why I have no problem spending my last turn, just sacrificing 2 cards. Not a problem at all for me here. Here I could have crowned the replace, but I felt like crowning the Lurker is just a lot better. I can get a Torturer now. My deck is becoming a little bit thinner, so perhaps I could make use of the sacrifice tricks. I also have a bunch of crowns. You never know, right? I do have, I think, 3 sacrifices in the deck, so I am looking to go after this nice sacrifice and a Lurker recovery kind of thing here. Not at all neglecting my trashing. So my opponent now gets up to par with me on the sacrifices. We have 3 of those. We look to be in very similar shape here. A big difference I think so far is that I have a replace and he doesn't have a replace. And on my side he has the jack. which does give him a bit of extra money, but and also some draw as he's used with the pawns here. But I'm not too concerned about that. I would like it for the draw more than for the silver, but I felt like, look, I don't want the jack straight away because the silvers don't help me line up my action cards right now. Well, ever, but that's why I didn't want the jack right away. Later on, once I could see my deck being nice and clean and thin, then I can entertain some thoughts of picking up the jack, because like I said, it will draw a lot of cards, and you can also set it up if you crown Lurker and then play jack. That's a lot of card draw. That's very, very good. But not right now is what I'm telling myself. So anyway, here I'm able to get the torturer thing started. I know there's a torturer in the back, which is why I went sacrificing a pawn to try to get to the torturer. I do manage to get to the torturer, so I land that hit in first. My opponent takes a curse from it, indicating that he has a very good hand, and I'm going to go forward with my deck here, triggering the shuffle, trying to see what else I could find here. I know I have a couple lurkers, so they can recover the things that I trash. So boom, sacrifice comes back, boom, pawn comes back. And there's also a very nice pun or something here. I don't know what the word for it is, but sacrificial pawn, right? You'll see a lot of that soon. So here, I don't really have too much money, but I think picking up a couple sacrifices is excellent there. If I was smart and paying attention, I would have replaced my silver into a torturer, putting it at the top of the deck, and then I would start off with crown torturer here, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But nope, not paying attention. But I am still able to do something pretty nice here. Some more sacrifice tricks in the mix. Sacrifice, so I play a crown on a sacrifice, and then I sacrifice a crown. So it gets me 2 actions, 2 cards, 2 money. That's cool. That's pretty cool. Unfortunately, it doesn't draw me into too much, but I'm able to recover my crown, at least, from the bin. I really don't want to give my opponent free crowns. So here, my opponent is finally able to crown a torturer and comes up with a heap of money. Again, the crown putting in a lot of work there for a colony. So the colony is perfectly reasonable for him at that point, because look at the pile situation. 3 crowns, 3 pawns, 2 sacrifices, and we have Lurkers in our deck. And you could put a crown on a Lurker. You know, that's 4 gains if you crown both your Lurkers. Pawn could give you plus buy. You know, the end of the game is nearby, and we have to play around that. So I'm able to set up a much better torturer chain here, able to play one and then crown another one, so that makes my opponent answer a lot of questions right away. And here I was looking for my replace, that's why I trashed again to draw with the sacrifice. I didn't find it. Unfortunately, it is the top card of my deck there, which turns out to be the bottom card, which is a little bit unfortunate, but oh well. I recover a pawn here just because I want to have at least the option of a plus buy in my deck if I need it. Also, it is sacrifice food. And I use the other Lurker to get a crown out from the supply. So now that does lower the piles a little bit, but I feel like my opponent can't end the game so easily. It requires, what, 5 to 7 gains for him? I don't think he could do 7 gains, especially with all those pawns in the bin. Meaning he doesn't have the plus buys, right? The only gains he'll have will be from the Lurkers, I think. I'm not sure. He also doesn't have the replace. So that is something to keep note of. Anyway, so he does get some draw to the jack here and goes looking, but he doesn't come up with enough to end the game, I believe. You see, the jack didn't allow him to make his deck smaller in the beginning, and I think that is starting to hurt him here. Whereas, on the other hand, I didn't go for the jack, so I didn't have the silvers to deal with, and now I think I'm a bit better equipped to pair things together. Of course, it is still very difficult to do so, even after sacrificing my replace and playing a torturer. This is still a little bit uncomfortable, and still uncomfortable even after playing a second sacrifice. But I am able to get out of it. I trash a couple crowns, very, very scary, but I know that eventually I'll find my torturer and I can recover the things that I trash with the sacrifice. This is pretty cool stuff here. Sacrifice on crown, and then you crown a sacrifice to sacrifice a crown or sacrifice crowns. You get a lot of value from that. That's real cool, I found. Anyways, so here I see that I have a few junk cards on my deck and I am going to take care of that situation now. Also, I am going to recover as much things from the trash that I could. Particularly, I want back my replace and my crown. Those are very, very good cards. Speaking of replace, my opponent picked up one on his last turn, so that's something he has now. And I can make use of the crowns actually. I can make use of the crowns that I recover to both thin my deck here and to pick up a colony. So that gives me the points advantage, which is pretty cool. It means that if my opponent wants to pile out, he needs to take me over on points as well. And he doesn't, I feel, have the kind of setup that I do. I don't think his deck is as thin as mine, especially after this turn. Get rid of two coppers here with the sacrifices, and I replace actually my silver into another crown. Again, a little bit dicey on the piles, but I think I have it under control here, especially after buying the colony. So I do top deck a crown, which is excellent news for me, and pick up a colony. My opponent, another pile, sorry, of consideration is the curses as well. So he maybe could string together something with his torturer, so I have to be aware of the curse pile as well. However, he is not going to be able to string together anything with his torturers. He'll mention in the chat soon enough that the curses caught up to him here, and he makes instead a points grab in play here, turning a curse into an estate, which also junks me and picking up an estate. But really, at this point, I think I have the win, even if my opponent accepts no curses from the torturers. I'm given the starting hand. So again, we start off with the symbolic sacrificial pawn. And once you are able to crown a torturer, I think you just have to figure things out, how to gain things and or trash things from the supply, and you can finish the game. So that is how game 4 ends here. I think the key was at the beginning of the game there, where I zoned in on trashing because I recognized that, look, whatever it is I want to do needs a certain clustering of actions. The replace can help to an extent, but that's still not as good as having a thin deck and having your crowns line up with your sacrifices and your torturers. So additionally, the crowns do very well with treasure, so there was no worry about me having to pick up a platinum or anything to buy colonies. So that is game 4 for you. Very, very nice one, and I will see you.